Get my 6. What's up, everybody? Good morning. It's almost 8. Sun's been up for a while. I just finished my 4-mile run. Only did 4 this morning. Short day. Got a lot of work ahead of me. Listen, I'm going to just walk and talk as I do my cool down. You're like, I don't believe that you just ran 4 miles. Your hair looks perfectly fit and you're not even breathing hard. Okay, number one, because I combed my hair before I made the video, brah. And I only ran 4 miles, so of course I'm not breathing hard. What do you think, I'm out of shape? All right, so I had some things going through my head I'm going to talk to you about. And the title, if I end up sticking with the title that's in my head, you're going to find out now or not. It is accurate. If I use the title, do not watch this video unless you want to quadruple your income. It is accurate. And here's why. This is a video based upon something that I've written in a story that you're going to read about. So it'll sound a little bit redundant when you read October Nights Part 2, 31 More Tales for the Halloween Season, and a story called The Day the Music Died. I did final edits on that one last night, getting this thing really close to go out to the editor. And then because of a conversation I had with my wife a couple of days ago, she experienced something that was very upsetting to her. And I tried to help her understand the other person's side of it. And I finally got her to understand it by sharing some experiences I had when I was in business, when I was a stockbroker for 8 years. I'm going to share with you here. The situation is this. Dearly, my beautiful bride, is very, very close to being able to apply for her U.S. citizenship. She's very excited for this. We all are. I'm just going to leave it at that. This girl is... I said I was going to leave it at that. You have no clue how grateful this woman is to live in America. And you have no clue how dumbfounded she is by so many natural-born Americans who are not, and she can't understand why they don't just leave. It's a land of opportunity, and she's proven it. Listen, I don't want to use numbers, but you know, my beautiful bride, Dearly, a.k.a. Giggly Girl, she loves to cook. She turned her passion into a profit by way of going into business, doing what she does. She's taking a break now because she really worked her butt off this spring. But I'll tell you this, without using numbers, she's already made more money year to date than an average public school teacher. And we're just over halfway through the school. This is a girl from a third world country who did go to college, but she didn't finish. Some jerk got her pregnant. I know, right? So she had to drop out to have a baby. She named him Daniel. He's a cute kid, great kid. But it's funny because she'll sit there and listen to people complain about how much America sucks and how listen, if you're not listening to my man Travis Daigle over at Fighting Past 40, you got to go hear him. This is one of the things that inspired me to come out and talk about this morning. People are always saying the government needs to do this about minimum wage and blah, blah, blah. I had no clue it was so low. I think it's only like $7.25. I've never cared what they do with the minimum wage as long as they don't touch the maximum wage. And it's not an issue of raising salaries for jobs that are really low-income jobs. It's an issue of us as individuals raising our standards and going out there and getting skills or pursuing other endeavors where we can earn more money. It's that simple. It really is that simple. And it comes down to how are you spending your time? And that's what I want to talk to you about mostly here. I know that sun's blinding. Man, I thought I was going to have shade if I walked this way. That only happens in the afternoon. I better walk the other way. So, listen, I'm going to use some examples. And what I was writing about, well, here's what happened to Dearly. Let me tell it in order, which is, I know, something I rarely do. Being that she's so close to applying for U.S. citizenship, she's got to get a bunch of documents in place and all these forms and all this stuff. And we have all this stuff. But she wants to know, okay, there's a woman in Florida that we used to help us process all the paperwork for her permanent residence green card. I don't do paperwork. 2 reasons. Number one, it drives me batty. Number two, I know the value of my time. And that's what part of this talk's about today. This is the general theme of this talk. I'm losing money, like taxes. If I take the time to do my own taxes, I'm losing money. I hire a CPA. I've had the same guy for years. He's great. He's got a law degree from Harvard, but you'd never know it because he's not a pretentious snob. He's as down to earth as you and I. And Good old Southern boy from Richmond, Virginia. And he owns his own accounting firm. And he's only a year older than me. And he's hugely successful. Because not only is he intelligent and good at what he does, he's good with people. So, goes a long way, folks. So, I pay, I think, $400 a year. You're like, what? You can do that? Yeah, and you know what? If I work during the amount of time I would spend doing my own taxes, I would make a lot. I do make a lot more than $400. So, it's not that I lose money by doing these petty little things for me. Now, not that they're not important. Filing your taxes is very important, as Shakira is finding out. And paying them too, as I've found out on years that I've been short. It can be very uncomfortable until you get caught back up. But I would be missing out on opportunities to generate greater revenues if I took the time to do such petty things. So Dearly contacted this woman down in Florida, and she said, hey, I'm getting really close to be able to qualify for permanent U.S. residence or citizenship. What is it I'm going to need to get to you? And the girl just quick email back. She goes, when are you eligible to file? And Dearly told her, and it's still a few months down the road. And so the girl emailed back and she said, contact me, at that date. I'll talk to you about it then. Well, Dearly took that personal. She got upset. She thought the girl was being a bitch. Well, she wasn't. The girl is being a successful businesswoman. This woman is Filipina. She came here from the Philippines many, many years ago. She is now a U.S. citizen, and she charges a reasonable fee to do this type of stuff for other people who have come here from other countries who are getting their green card, permanent resident status, and their U.S. citizenship. She makes a ton of money because she has a ton of clients. And I explained to Dearly, listen, honey, it's nothing personal. This woman simply understands the value of her time. When you go back to her, when you're actually in a position to be able to execute this plan, she will spend as much time with you that you need her to spend with you. I guarantee it. And she's like, well, she could have been nicer. I'm like, honey, she's in business to make a profit, not to be nice. And that doesn't mean she's not nice. It means she is a very successful business person who understands the value of her time and doesn't let people waste it. Now, I used some examples with Dearly, and I used an example of this is what you'll read about in October Nights Part 2, 31 more tales for the Halloween season. Aren't these flowers beautiful? They were here when we moved in. They're the kind that come up every year. Gosh, I'm going to try to block that sun. Hold on. So, when I was a stockbroker, and I did that for 8 years, many years ago, that's what brought me to the area I live in now originally. Well, kind of, sort of. Another long story there, but I struggled. And I say this in the story, trust me, I'm not going to give the creepy, scary part of the story away. You're going to have to wait to read that in October. And it's based on true, actual, factual events, just like the other 30 stories in the work. People have asked me, your stories seem so real. It's like they really happened. How do you get to be that good as a writer? Well, big part of it, of course, the time, the effort, the years of just doing it, the tons of reading, 6 or 8 books a month, sometimes more if I'm not writing one of my own. But mostly because most of the things I write about are based upon events that really happen. Dates change, places change, that sort of thing. That's one of the secrets to making them realistic. But I talk about this class I had to go to because I was not a very good broker in the early days as far as producing. I wasn't hitting the numbers my firm expected me to hit as far as commissions go. The biggest reason is because I didn't value my time as I should have, and I didn't use my time as I should have. I thought, I'm a first-generation college graduate. I'm the first person in my family to get a professional middle-class type job, which would allow me to, of course, go to the upper classes from there had I stuck with that and whatever. It just wasn't for me. And that wasn't the only way to get there. I'll point that out too. There's more than one avenue to success and to your goals and your dreams. And if you get out of a job that you really just don't like and get into doing something that you love, it's true, you'll never feel like you worked a day in your life, and you can get there anyway. And we're doing that now here through other means. But I would just waste time. I would waste time with people, and this is what I was explaining to Dearly. I would waste time with people who had no intentions of ever doing business with me, number one, because maybe they didn't have the money. Number two, maybe they were going to have the money at some point, but it was 6 months down the road, or it was a year down the road. They came into an inheritance, and the what do you call those people? The trustee was still sorting things out, splitting the money up. I would spend time with those people, and a lot of times what would happen is, number one, the people never got the money. They never came into the money. Number two, this was late 90s, early 2000s. This is when you could then go online and do your own trading, which is what we do. I use Ameritrade only because I used to be a licensed Series 7, Series 53, 55, whatever, securities dealer, and I have the ability to separate my emotions from my money. I don't recommend to most people doing their own thing. I highly recommend you seeking out a qualified professional and turning your money over to them. But I would give these people so much information, they didn't need me. I mean, I'd tell them, hey, we're going to put 10 grand in this stock or 10 grand in this mutual fund and blah, blah, blah. Well, when they did get the money, they went out and did it themselves. I already gave them all the information they needed. So I was spending hours of time with people and not getting paid for it. And I explained that to Dearly. So I went to this class called Acceleration, where they basically taught me to stop doing those things. Number two, in my personal life, and this is one of the things I write about in the story, I thought I was being frugal by doing such what's the word? Not meaningless, it has to be done. Simple tasks that I could have paid someone a little bit of money to do for me, such as changing the oil in my vehicle. My senior year of college, I bought an old Chevy S10 Blazer. I think it was $1,800. I used to pride myself on changing the oil in that thing when the oil change was due. I'd go to the Advanced Auto Parts store, not sponsored. I'd buy the filter, I'd buy the oil, and then I'd spend, time on a Saturday morning draining the old oil, and then I'd replace the filter, put the oil in, and man, look at me. If I'd have gone to the Valvoline shop to have that oil change, they probably would have charged me $19.99 or maybe, $24.99. This is back around 2000. But I got all these things for $12, so I saved $8 or $10. Well, when I went to that class, Acceleration, these are the types of things we talked about. There were those of us who were not making much money at all. We were making like public school teacher type money, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as you're a teacher. We were stockbrokers. It was humiliating. And so the teachers were the guys and the women who were generating $1 million or more in gross commissions. And they explained to us about how, look, everybody has the same 24 hours in a day. The difference is how everybody as an individual chooses to use those 24 hours in their day. And they flat out asked us, who here, for example, mows your own grass? I raised my hand because I was mowing my own grass. I had just a tiny little yard. And my situation's different now. I do it here. It's one of the things I love to do. A different topic. This is not applicable to me now. It was at the time. They said, who changes your oil in your own vehicle? I raised my hand. And they said, look, everybody that's been raising your hands, you are stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. We're like, huh? What are you talking about? And they're like, how much time do you spend changing your oil? I'm like, I don't know, maybe an hour. And they're like, well, we don't believe you, because don't you got to go to the store and get that stuff? It was really more like an hour and a half. If because you got to go to the store. You got to take the oil somewhere where you can say, hey, take this oil. Back then you could do it free. Sometimes you even got to pay them now to take it. So they said, listen, here's how you're going to make it to the next level. And by the way, here's how you're going to keep your job. Because we were facing getting fired if we didn't hit certain production numbers in the next 90 days after this class. So they told me, they said, look, the next time you need your oil changed, go to your office on a Saturday morning, get in there early, pull up, for example, a tax-free municipal bond, print off a list of your 10 highest net worth clients. And this is when cell phones were new. I had a little flip phone. They said, take your little flip phone, go to the Valvoline place or wherever, let them change your oil. While they're changing your oil, go out in the parking lot, get away where there's nobody that can hear you, take that call list, take your phone, call those clients and pitch them that bond. Well, of course, that was out of my comfort zone. That was number one. But I saved $10 when I changed my own oil. Number two, the stock markets aren't even open on Saturday, nor are the bond markets. What my clients are going to be angry if I call them on a Saturday morning. They just shook their heads. And this is something I talk about on this channel about number one, if you want to be successful, the first thing you have got to do is stop making excuses. Listen, I'm not making this stuff up, guys. I was trained in the art of this stuff by one of the most prodigious financial firms in the country that's almost 150 years old right now. I'm not going to say their name. I have no ill regard toward them. I'm just going to give them free advertising. Trust me, they don't need it. So I did it, and they even made the pitch out for me. And here's the pitch, and this is in the book, so it's going to be redundant when you get to it. But something totally scary does happen. Trust me, it's a scary book filled with scary stories. The pitch was this: you call them up, and it's true. Yes, it's sales, but yes, it's also true. They answer the phone. You'd say, hello, Mr. and Mrs. Old Person, because we didn't deal with people that were not retired. Why? For the same reason Jesse James robbed banks. It's where the money was. Okay, so hey, good morning, Mr. and Mrs. Old Person. I know it seems weird me calling you on a Saturday and all, but the reason I'm calling you on a Saturday is because our firm has recently made available a tax-free and insured municipal bond paying X amount of interest. If you feel this investment would be right for you and your loved ones, I'd recommend you buy $20,000 of it today, unless you think $50,000 would be more appropriate. And then you shut up, which was hard for me. And then, of course, I left out the part about how, if I was afraid if I waited till Monday, this might be gone, so I wanted to call you on a Saturday. And that was true. These bonds sold out fast. Shutting up was hard. And there was an expression in sales, he who speaks first loses, because that silence is painful. Well, they're thinking about it. But if you come out and say, and another thing about this bond, well, you just lost. They're going to be like, because you break their train of thought. It's not that they were thinking about how to tell you no. They were actually thinking, this is a pretty good idea. Where can I pull 20 grand from or 50 grand from? Because when I would call my clients to sell bonds, they would always say, well, what's the minimum? And the minimum initial investment in these bonds were $5,000, and then you could buy in increments of $5,000. And I'd tell them that, well, just $5,000. They go, well, put me in for $5,000. Yeah, I'll bring you a check tomorrow. And I'd be like, yes, and I felt like I did something all day. Man, I was thinking small. Just when I would say 20,000, or unless you think 50,000 is better, then I'd shut up. I was amazed. The first person I called said, well, 20,000 is enough. I don't have 50,000 in cash right now. I wish I did. That sounds like a right good rate on that bond. This is Virginia. The people out in the country, not the people in the Charlottesville, they'd say, put me down for 20 grand. I'll bring you a check tomorrow or on Monday. I'm like, okay. And I got off the phone and I'm in the parking lot of Valvoline and I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, nah, beginner's luck. I keep calling. Point of the story is, by the time I was finished going down that list and making those calls, and by the time they were finished changing the oil in my Chevy S10 Blazer I bought my senior year of college, I made more money in commissions than I'd paid originally for that Chevy Blazer. That is a true story, and that changed the way I saw the world. And I fully understood for the first time as an adult the true value of my time. And I'll be damned if I let other people waste it. And I told this story to Dearly. And I'm like, that's why that girl in Florida said to you, get back to me when you are actually in the time frame where you can file for permanent residency. She's not being mean. She knows the value of her time. She goes out of her way, I'm sure, not to waste it. She's not going to let anybody else waste it either. I could go on with story after story, example after example of how people waste their time, but it's really not necessary. I told you a story of how I was wasting my time. I'll give you one more, and then I'm going to go. I still got to do weight training, shower, and then I've got to edit relentlessly today. But I will have another video coming for you later today. So here's the deal. I left that firm and I went into private practice because I thought maybe the firm wasn't for me, but it turns out a couple of years later I'd find out the industry wasn't for me. Listen, this is my office. I love to be outside. I'm a physical kind of guy like Travis Stagel over at Fighting Past 40. He was an engineer. We met at basic training in Fort Benning, Georgia. Infantry school, right? We're supposed to be a bunch of dumb grunts who joined the Army because we don't have any other options. Myself and Travis Daigle and half the other guys in that unit had bachelor's degrees. He was an engineer. I'd been a stockbroker. We were there because we weren't happy about those a-holes that came over here and knocked our buildings down and killed a bunch of our people, and we wanted to go show them what we had to do about it, what we had to say about it. Had nothing to do about not having any other options. We were one and done as far as an enlistment term did. Went over there, did our thing, came back, and now we've gone on to do our other things over here. Okay? So, but before that, for 2 years, I worked in private practice from my home. And this is why I will never live in a subdivision again. In the mornings, and I was going through a divorce at this time. I was separated. My divorce would finally become final. So I had 3 little kids, and I would get them off to the school bus every morning, which was right in front of my house. Because the buses around this area, they'll come right to your house. We are privileged here, I'm telling you. When I was a kid, I walked to school, junior high and high school. But in grade school, there was one bus stop in the neighborhood. They didn't go house to house to house to house. You had to walk through all weather, no matter the distance. Some of the kids had to walk 3/4 of a mile, which isn't far. But it's a lot farther than the end of your driveway like it is today. But anyway, I had a neighbor in that subdivision. Loved the guy. Great guy. We were friends, okay? He worked for himself, but he didn't understand this concept of time management, and he just didn't have a lot of business going on, obviously, and the story I'm going to tell you is an example as to why. So every morning when the bus would get my kids, well, guess what? They had just gotten his kids, so he was behind him in his utility truck. Well, he'd stop, and it wasn't just to say hi and bye. It was to piss away an hour of his time and an hour of my time. He was older than me. He was probably the age I am now. I'm 48, going to be 49 soon. I was 30. And so there was this respect for my elders thing going on with me. It's why I wouldn't put my foot down. There was this, he's my neighbor thing going on with me. That's why I'll never live in a subdivision again. Of course, I've run into similar problems out here in the country and other stories for other times. Told you some of them already. Going to tell you more in the future. Trust me, because there's a dick out here with a very similar mindset. Finally dealt with him, got rid of him. But this guy saw no problem with pissing away an hour of his time, the first hour of every morning, to just stop and talk about meaningless crap with some guy because the guy just happened to be there. There is no bigger waste of time than small talking with a neighbor or anybody. Now, there's a time and a place for that. I'm not saying everybody be unneighborly, but there's a time and a place. And this guy knew I worked from home as a financial planner. So I finally put my foot down after about 4 or 5 months of this going on. Here's why. We were into May, the month of May, the merry, merry month of May. And in Virginia, let me tell you, that last 4 to 6 weeks before school lets out, it's already hot. And I've been a runner my whole life. If you don't go out and run and get done by 8 a.m., you're going to be miserable because you're either going to run in the heat or you're going to miss your workout because you say, well, I'm just going to wait and run this evening when the sun goes down. And what I've found, it's been my experience when I do that, I don't run because I get worn out doing everything else throughout the day. And I say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. That's why I do it first thing in the morning, no matter how tired I am, no matter how much I don't want to get out of bed. Trust me, especially in the winter. There are days I want to stay under that big, heavy goose down comforter and listen to that fire crackle in the wood stove. But I make myself get up and get out and run first thing so I know I get it done because it's important to me. It allows me to be fit. It allows me to be healthy. It allows me to clear my mind and get ready for my day, okay? So this guy would waste the first hour of my day, and then he'd leave, and then I'd try to go for my run and get back in time to be ready for the markets to open at 9:30. And there were times I would run, I was afraid I wasn't going to make it back because I was going to have some sort of heat casualty. And then when I would get back, I was always rushing to get to work, and I didn't have my notes prepared. I didn't have my list of customers or clients I needed to call that day to talk about their portfolios. So I stayed behind the entire day, and even more importantly than that, I was anxious the whole day because I felt like I was playing catch up. Well, I finally, by talking to one of my elders in the industry that I kind of used as a mentor, I was like, man, I got this, there's this guy, I like him. I like this guy, but I don't like him wasting the first hour of my morning every day. And I know better than this. When I worked with the firm I left, they told me about these things. And it was just an issue of me still not being at a point in my life where I was willing to stand up for myself to the degree that I am now. And the guy said, look, just tell the guy, say, hey, just when he starts to say, hey, stop talking. Just not trying to be rude, but listen, let's get together this weekend. Let's have some cold ones on Saturday night or something. But I really need to get my run in before the sun pops up over the hill, because it's, May or June. And I need to get back in time to shower and prepare for my work day, because, the market's open at 9:30. I did that, and the guy was like, oh, okay, man, no problem. Got in his truck and left. Never thought anything of it. I mean, he probably went on and found somebody else whose time he could waste. And that guy eventually did go out of business. Are you surprised? No. But I was flirting with going out of business myself because I was allowing that guy to waste my time. The girl in Florida, as I told Dearly when I shared this example with her as well, she's probably been through that too, and she's just learned to put her foot down quicker and faster. It's not that she's a bitch. She's not being mean. She understands the value of her time. She works hard not to waste it, and she doesn't allow other people to waste it either. Now, how are you spending your time? Just take a look at how you're spending your time. And if you want to say, well, this doesn't apply to me because I'm an hourly employee, or this doesn't apply to me because I have a fixed salary, the hell it doesn't. Do you know it's 2022 and we have an Etsy store. Go look at it. The link's in the description box below. If you know how to make anything, you can start an Etsy shop. If you're like, well, I wish I'd made more money. Gas is so high, I can't afford it. Open an Etsy shop. This is one of the ways Dearly makes more money than a freaking public school teacher in the U.S. halfway through the year. And she came here 6 years ago from a third world country. She understands she's in the land of opportunity, and she understands that bitching and complaining about the way things are with the economy and with government and with politics is not going to help her buy gas. It's not going to help her buy groceries. She understands that by taking action to move towards making her life better is going to accomplish all those things. You can do it too. See you for more next time.